The grocery store incident. Maya Ellison juggled grocery bags under Atlanta's sticky dusk, her mind on her daughter's birthday cake. Two white officers, badges glinting, blocked her path, spitting accusations of shoplifting. She showed receipts. Voice steady, but their smirks grew cruel. Suddenly they slammed her to the pavement, cuffs slicing her wrists as whispers rose from the crowd. Humiliated, Maya glared at the lead officer, unaware she'd face him tomorrow as his prosecutor. What will her next move be? Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is a game changer you won't want to miss. The night in jail. Maya Ellison shivered on the cold bench of a dimly lit Atlanta cell, her wrists throbbing from the cuffs that had bitten into her skin hours earlier, her once pristine sundress now torn at the shoulder, a jagged reminder of the officer's brutality outside the grocery store. The air stank of mildew and despair, and the distant clank of metal doors echoed like a taunt. She replayed the incident in her mind, each frame searing deeper. The officers' accusing glares, their hands shoving her to the pavement, the crowd's murmurs as she lay there, helpless, her grocery bag spilling apples and cereal across the asphalt. She'd shown them her receipts, her voice calm, professional, the voice of a woman who'd spent years commanding courtrooms, but their smirks only widened, as if her words were a joke. Now, trapped in this concrete box, she felt the weight of their contempt, a venom she knew too well, one that clung to her skin like the humidity of the Georgia night. She wasn't just a woman wronged, she was a black woman, and that, she realized, was crime enough in their eyes. Her thoughts drifted to her daughter, Aisha, waiting at home, probably pacing, wondering why her mother hadn't returned to finish baking her birthday cake. Maya's chest tightened, guilt mingling with fury, but she forced herself to breathe, to focus. She was Maya Ellison, district attorney, a name that struck fear into corrupt officials, and she would not let this break her. A faint murmur from the hallway snapped her back to the present, voices low but sharp, carrying the cadence of conspiracy. She pressed her ear against the cell's rusted bars, straining to catch the words. One voice, gruff and commanding, stood out, its tone laced with authority. "Make sure the report says she resisted," it barked. "Add a charge of assault if you have to. She's not walking away clean." Maya's blood ran cold. She recognized the speaker without seeing his face. Lieutenant Victor Hargrove, the untouchable kingpin of Atlanta's police precinct, a man whose name whispered through courtrooms like a curse. She'd heard rumors of his influence, his ability to bend the system to his will, but she'd never crossed him directly. Now, it seemed, he'd chosen her as his target. The officers who'd arrested her, their badges flashing in her memory, were his pawns, and they were weaving a lie to bury her. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms as their laughter echoed, a sound that twisted her stomach. They were fabricating evidence, crafting a story to paint her as a criminal, a violent thief who dared to defy them. The injustice burned, a fire that threatened to consume her, but she swallowed it, knowing anger alone wouldn't free her. She needed a plan, a way to fight back. As the hours crawled by, the cell's chill seeped into her bones, and sleep remained a distant hope. She paced the narrow space, her mind racing, piecing together her next steps. She was a prosecutor, damn it, and she knew how to play their game better than they did. If Hargrove thought he could silence her with a false arrest, he'd underestimated her. She just needed a lifeline, a crack in their armor. Around 3 in the morning, a soft clink at the cell door startled her. A guard, a young black woman with tired eyes, slipped a burner phone through the bars, her movements quick, almost invisible. "You didn't get this from me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Call who you need, 5 minutes." Maya nodded, her heart pounding, and grabbed the phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed her deputy, Marcus Tate, a man she trusted with her life. Marcus answered on the first ring, his voice thick with worry. "Maya, where are you?" "Aisha. Called me, said you never came home." She kept her voice low, explaining the arrest, the officer's lies, and Hargrove's involvement. Marcus cursed under his breath, promising to pull every string he could to get her out. "Sit tight," he said. I'll have you out by dawn." The call ended, and Maya slid the phone back through the bars, the guard vanishing into the shadows. For the first time since the cuffs snapped shut, hope flickered in her chest. Marcus was a bulldog, relentless, and he had connections in the department. She leaned against the wall, closing her eyes, willing herself to believe she'd walk out of this nightmare. Dawn broke, grey light filtering through the cell's tiny window, and true to Marcus's word, a different guard unlocked her door. "You're free to go," he grunted, avoiding her gaze. Maya stood smoothing her torn dress, her chin high despite the bruises blooming on her arms. She stepped into the precinct's buzzing lobby, expecting relief, but instead, a blinding flash hit her eyes. A news crew, cameras rolling, shoved microphones in her face, their questions slicing like knives. "Miss Ellison, is it true you assaulted an officer? Did you steal from the store?" Her stomach dropped. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a trap. She pushed through the crowd, her voice steady as she said no comment, but the damage was done. The reporter's words echoed in her mind, twisting her arrest into a scandal, painting her as a corrupt DA who'd abused her power. She hailed a cab, her mind reeling, and as she sank into the back seat, her phone buzzed with a notification. A video was circulating online, already viral, and she tapped it with a sinking heart. The footage, grainy but damning, showed her outside the grocery store, edited to make it look like she'd lunged at the officers, her face contorted in anger. The truth, her calm explanation, her receipts, had been erased, replaced by a lie. That spread like wildfire. Comments flooded the screen, vicious and unrelenting. "Typical. She's a thug in a suit. Lock her up." Maya's breath caught, her hands shaking as she realized the scale of the attack. Hargrove hadn't just arrested her, he'd weaponized the media, turning her own city against her. She scrolled further, finding the source of the video, an anonymous account, but the precision, the timing screamed Hargrove's involvement. He'd orchestrated this to destroy her reputation, to ensure she'd never recover from the humiliation of that night. She clenched her jaw, fury replacing fear. He thought, this would break her. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. She was Maya Ellison, and she'd fought bigger battles than this. But as the cab pulled up to her house, Aisha waiting anxiously on the porch, Maya's resolve wavered. The video wasn't just an attack on her. It was a threat to her daughter, her life, everything she'd built. She hugged Aisha tightly, promising to fix this, but deep down she knew Hargrove's next move would be worse. He'd drawn first blood, and she had no doubt he was already planning his next strike, one that would hit harder, deeper, and without mercy. The cell's cold lingered in her bones, but it was nothing compared to the chill of what was coming. The courtroom revelation. Maya Ellison stood in the Atlanta courtroom, her tailored navy suit a stark contrast to the torn sundress of the night before, her bruises hidden beneath makeup, but pulsing with every heartbeat. The air buzzed with anticipation, the gallery packed with reporters and curious locals, their whispers a low hum as she adjusted her notes on the prosecution table. 24 hours ago she'd been on her knees, asphalt biting her skin, cuffs chaining her wrists, accused of a crime she didn't commit. Now she was the district attorney, the hunter, not the prey, her eyes locked on the double doors where her targets would soon enter. She'd barely slept, the viral video of her supposed assault looping in her mind, its lies spreading like poison through the city she'd sworn to protect. But here in this room, she held the gavel's power, and she'd make those officers regret ever crossing her. The bailiff's voice cut through the chatter, announcing the defendants, and Maya's pulse quickened as the doors swung open. Officers. Daniel Bryce and Nathan Cole strode in, their blue uniforms crisp, their faces smug, expecting a slap on the wrist for their routine misconduct. Bryce, the one who'd slammed her to the ground, smirked faintly, whispering to Cole as they approached the defense table. Maya's jaw tightened, but she kept her expression stone cold, her years of courtroom battles honing her into a weapon of precision. The judge, a stern woman with grey streaks in her hair, nodded for Maya to begin, and she rose, her voice slicing through the room like a blade. "Your Honor, these officers abused their power, assaulted an innocent woman, and fabricated evidence to cover their tracks," she said, her words deliberate, each one landing like a blow. She laid out their lies, detailing how they'd ignored her receipts, twisted her calm explanation into resistance, and fed a doctored video to the media to ruin her. The gallery murmured, some nodding, others skeptical, but Maya didn't waver. She projected the grocery store's security footage, unedited, showing her compliance, her hands raised, her voice steady, until Bryce's shove sent her sprawling. The room gasped, and Bryce's smirk faltered, his eyes darting to Cole, who shifted uncomfortably. Maya felt a surge of triumph, her evidence airtight, her argument a fortress. She was dismantling their defense brick by brick, and for the first time since the arrest, she believed justice was within reach. The officer's lawyer, a slick man named Gerald Vaughan, leaned back, unfazed, as if he'd expected her move. Maya pressed on, calling her first witness, a bystander who'd filmed the incident on his phone, his shaky video corroborating her story. The man, a nervous mechanic named Jamal, testified to the officer's aggression, his voice trembling but clear. Maya's questions were sharp, drawing out every detail, and by the time Jamal stepped down, the gallery was buzzing, the tide turning in her favor. She glanced at the judge, who nodded slightly, a rare sign of approval. Maya's chest swelled. She was winning, exposing these men for what they were, and soon the city would see their true faces. But Vaughan stood, his smile oily, and Maya's instincts prickled. "The defense calls a surprise witness," he announced, and the room stilled. Maya's brow furrowed. No witness had been listed in discovery, a breach of protocol, but the judge allowed it, her expression unreadable. The doors opened again, and a wiry man in his 20s shuffled in, his store clerk uniform wrinkled, his eyes darting nervously. "State your name," Vaughan said, and the man mumbled, "Tyler Reed." Maya's mind raced. She didn't know him, but his presence felt like a trap, a chess move she hadn't anticipated. Vaughan's questions came fast, leading Reed to claim he'd seen Maya in the grocery store, slipping items into her bag, then threatening him when he confronted her. "She said she'd ruin me," Reed stammered, avoiding Maya's gaze. "Said she had power, being DA and all." The gallery erupted, whispers turning to shouts, and Maya's stomach twisted. It was a lie, every word, but Reed's nervous delivery made it sound real, and the judge's frown deepened. Maya shot to her feet, objecting, demanding proof, but Vaughan produced a grainy photo, allegedly showing Maya near the store's exit, her bag bulging. The image was blurry, inconclusive, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. The gallery's mood shifted, doubt creeping in, and Bryce's smirk returned bolder now. Maya's mind scrambled, piecing together the setup. Reed was a plant, bought or coerced, and Vaughan's calm demeanor screamed Hargrove's influence. She cross-examined Reed, her questions razor-sharp, exposing holes in his story. Why hadn't he reported the threat? Where was the store's inventory log? But Reed stuck to his script, his voice steadier now as if coached. The judge, swayed by the photo and Reed's testimony, leaned forward, her voice cold. "Ms. Ellison, unless you can discredit this witness, I'm inclined to dismiss the charges against the defendants." Maya's breath caught, her victory slipping away like sand. She argued, citing procedural errors, but the judge waved her off, adjourning the hearing for the day. The gavel's crack echoed like a gunshot, and Maya stood frozen, her notes trembling in her hands. Bryce and Cole strutted out, their laughter grating, while reporters swarmed, their cameras flashing like vultures circling a corpse. The viral video, the cell's cold, the officer's lies. It was all crashing down, and now this, a lie so bold it threatened to unravel her career. She'd walked into this courtroom as a predator, but Hargrove had turned the tables, his shadow looming, larger than she'd imagined. As she gathered her files, her phone buzzed with notifications. Reed's testimony was already online, trending, with headlines screaming, "DA accused of intimidation." Her triumph had been a mirage, and Hargrove's next blow was already landing, its weight crushing her hope. She stepped into the courthouse hallway, the crowd's stares burning her skin, and vowed to fight back, but doubt gnawed at her. How deep did Hargrove's reach go? If you're raging at this injustice, comment number 1 to stand with Maya's fight for truth. If you believe the system protects liars like Hargrove, hit like and subscribe to follow her battle. What will Maya do next to turn this trap into her triumph? The public backlash. Maya Ellison pushed through the courthouse doors, the Atlanta sun blinding after the courtroom's fluorescent glare, but the heat of the crowd's stares burned hotter. Reporters swarmed, their microphones thrusting forward. Like spears, their questions slicing into her. "Miss Ellison, did you threaten the clerk? Are you corrupt?" She kept her chin high, her lips sealed, but inside her heart hammered. The sting of Tyler Reed's lies still fresh, his fabricated testimony now a wildfire online, scorching her reputation. The courtroom had been her battlefield, her evidence. Unassailable, yet Hargrove's puppet had turned her victory to ash, and the city she'd served for a decade was turning against her. She slipped into her car, the leather seat hot against her back, and checked her phone, dreading the notifications. Social media was a war zone. Hashtags like Crooked DA and Justice for Tyler trended, with thousands of posts calling her a fraud, a bully, a black woman who'd abused her power to intimidate a helpless clerk. The comments were venomous, laced with racial slurs she'd spent her life ignoring. But they cut deeper now, each one a reminder of the grocery store pavement, the cuffs, the officers' smirks. She scrolled, her fingers trembling, and found a live stream from outside her office. A crowd of protesters, their signs waving like battle flags, chanting, "Corrupt DA must go." Maya's stomach churned. This wasn't spontaneous, it was orchestrated, Hargrove's hand pulling every string. Lieutenant Victor Hargrove, the precinct's untouchable titan, hadn't just planted Reed, he'd weaponized the city's pulse, turning neighbors into enemies. She started the car, her mind racing. She needed to discredit Reed, prove he was bought, and expose Hargrove's corruption before the judge dismissed the officer's case. Her office, a glass tower downtown, was her next stop, but as she pulled onto the highway, her phone rang. It was Sarah Kim, her junior prosecutor, a sharp 20-something who'd been with Maya since her first day as DA. "Maya, you need to see this," Sarah said, her voice tight. "I'm at the office digging into Reed's financials. Something's off." Maya's grip tightened on the wheel, hope flickering. "What did you find?" Sarah hesitated. "Not over the phone. Meet me in 20. Maya floored the gas, weaving through traffic, her mind buzzing with possibilities. If Sarah had evidence of Reed's bribe, they could flip this, show the judge Hargrove's dirty hands. She parked outside her office, the protesters' chants audible even from the garage, their voices a relentless drumbeat. "Ellison must. I resign." She ignored them, striding into the building, her heels clicking on marble. Sarah waited in the conference room, her laptop open, papers scattered like shrapnel. "Reed got a deposit," Sarah said, sliding a bank statement across the table. $10,000, wired 2 days ago from an offshore account. It's sloppy, traceable if we dig deeper. Maya's pulse quickened. This was it, the crack in Hargrove's armor. She scanned the document, her years as a prosecutor kicking in, spotting the account's ties to a shell company she'd seen in past corruption cases. "Good work," she told Sarah, her voice steady despite the adrenaline. "Keep digging. But be discreet. Hargrove's watching." Sarah nodded, her eyes fierce, and Maya felt a surge of gratitude. She wasn't alone in this fight. Not yet. They spent the next hour mapping out their strategy. Sarah would trace the account. Maya would prep a motion to recall Reed to the stand. For the first time since the courtroom, Maya felt in control, her path clear. She sent Sarah home with a warning to stay safe, then headed to her own office ready to draft the motion. But as she sat at her desk, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A photo of Sarah crumpled on a sidewalk, blood pooling beneath her head, her laptop smashed beside her. The message read, "Stop digging." Maya's breath stopped, her vision blurring. She called Sarah's phone, praying it was a fake, but it went straight to voicemail. Panic clawed at her chest, but she forced herself to think, dialing 911, her voice shaking as she reported the attack. Within minutes, police confirmed Sarah was alive, barely, rushed to the hospital with a fractured skull. Maya's relief was fleeting. Guilt crashed in, heavy and suffocating. Sarah had been targeted because of her, because she dared to challenge Hargrove. She sank into her chair, the office's silence deafening, the protesters' chants seeping through the windows like a taunt. She'd thought she could outsmart Hargrove, but he'd struck first, his reach terrifyingly vast. Her phone buzzed, again this time with a news alert. City Council to vote on DA suspension. Maya clicked the link, her heart sinking as she read. Councilman Robert Gaines, a known Hargrove ally, had proposed an emergency motion to suspend her, citing credible allegations of misconduct and Reed's testimony. The vote was set for tomorrow, and the article quoted Gaines. Ellison's actions threaten public trust. We must act swiftly. Maya's hands shook, rage mixing with fear. This wasn't just about her job, it was about Aisha, her daughter, who'd already lost so much stability since the arrest. If Maya was suspended, her cases would stall, her income would dry up, and Hargrove's officers would walk free. She stood, pacing, her mind a storm. Sarah's attack was a warning, the council motion a death blow, and both bore Hargrove's fingerprints. She needed to act, but how? Sarah's evidence was their only shot, but with her in the hospital, Maya was alone, her resources dwindling. She grabbed her coat, determined to visit Sarah, to find something, anything, to keep fighting. But as she stepped into the elevator, her phone lit up with another alert, a petition signed by thousands demanding her resignation. The protesters outside had grown, their signs now joined by effigies, her face mocked in crude caricatures. She froze. The elevator's hum the only sound, and realized the truth. Hargrove wasn't just targeting her career, he was dismantling her life, piece by piece, and the city was cheering him on. She'd walked into that courtroom thinking she held the power, but Hargrove had turned her strength into a liability, her race a weapon against her. As the elevator doors opened, she stepped into the lobby, the crowd's roar hitting her like a wave, and vowed to fight back, even if it cost her everything. But deep down, she knew Hargrove's next move would be worse, a strike aimed at her heart, and she wasn't sure she could survive it. The home invasion Maya Ellison pulled into her quiet Atlanta suburb, the streetlights casting long shadows across her modest two-story home, but the sight that greeted her stopped her heart. Her front door hung ajar, splintered wood jutting like broken bones, and the windows gaped, their glass shattered into glittering shards on the lawn. She killed the engine, her hands trembling, the protesters' chants from her office still ringing in her ears, their signs branding her a criminal. The city council's suspension motion loomed, Sarah's bloodied face haunted her, and now this, her sanctuary violated. She stepped out, her heels crunching glass, and pushed the door open, her breath shallow. Inside, chaos reigned. Furniture overturned, cushions slashed and walls defaced with spray paint, racial slurs screaming in red and black, words so vile they burned her eyes. "Go back to where you came from," one scrawled message spat, as if Atlanta, her birthplace, wasn't her home. Her stomach twisted, but a sharper fear spiked as she called out, "Aisha!" Her daughter, only 13, was supposed to be here, safe, waiting for her. Silence answered, and Maya's pulse roared, her legs carrying her upstairs, each step a prayer. She burst into Aisha's room, finding it trashed. Posters torn, books shredded, her daughter's violin snapped in half. But no Aisha. Panic clawed her chest, her mind flashing to Sarah's attack, Hargrove's warning, the city's hatred spilling over. She dialed Aisha's phone, her fingers fumbling, and relief flooded her when her daughter's voice answered, shaky but alive. "Mom, I'm at Grandma's," Aisha said. "I got scared when I saw the house. I ran." Maya exhaled, tears pricking her eyes, and told Aisha to stay put, promising to fix this. She hung up, sinking onto Aisha's bed, the broken violin in her hands, its strings dangling like severed lifelines. This wasn't just vandalism. It was a message, a blade aimed at her family, and she knew who'd sent it. Lieutenant Victor. Hargrove, the puppet master behind her arrest, the viral video, Reed's lies and Sarah's fractured skull, had struck again, his reach slithering into her private world. She stood, fury replacing fear, and began searching for clues, her prosecutor's instincts kicking in. The destruction was meticulous, targeted, not the work of random thugs. She checked her home office, finding her files on the officers' case untouched, a deliberate choice to taunt her. As she surveyed the wreckage, a neighbor, Mrs. Carter, knocked softly, her face pale. "Maya, I saw something," she whispered, handing over a USB drive. "My security camera caught it." Maya's heart raced as she plugged the drive into her laptop, the only thing not smashed. The grainy footage showed two figures in dark clothes spray painting her walls, their movements swift, professional. But the real shock came at the timestamp. 3 police cruisers idled across the street during the break-in, their lights off, unmistakable in the camera's glow. Maya's breath caught. This wasn't just Hargrove's men, it was Hargrove's machine, the precinct itself complicit in terrorizing her. She copied the footage, her mind spinning. This was evidence, a chance to expose Hargrove's corruption, to show the world his officers weren't just rogue, but part of a system protecting him. She contacted a journalist, Carla Ruiz, a tenacious reporter who'd covered her cases before. Carla agreed to meet, promising to air the footage on her evening broadcast. Maya sent the file, her hope reigniting. If the public saw police cars at her home during a hate crime, the council's suspension vote might falter, and Hargrove's grip would weaken. She spent the day cleaning, boarding up windows, and reassuring Aisha, who returned with her grandmother, her eyes wide with fear. Maya hugged her tightly, whispering promises of safety, but inside she braced for Hargrove's retaliation. As evening fell, she turned on the news, Carla's segment starting. The footage played, the police cruisers damningly clear, and Carla's voiceover called it a chilling escalation in the Ellison case. Social media erupted, some decrying the police, others accusing Maya of faking the video. For a moment, Maya felt the tide turning, her evidence shifting the narrative. She leaned back, exhaustion tugging at her, believing she'd finally landed a blow. But her phone buzzed with a new alert, and her blood ran cold. A breaking news report claimed she'd leaked classified police surveillance footage, a felony violation. The story cited internal affairs, alleging Maya had accessed restricted systems to obtain the neighbor's video, a lie so bold it stunned her. Within minutes, her email flooded with notices. An internal affairs investigation had been launched, freezing her access to all case files, including the officer's misconduct case. Her office login was disabled, her database locked, her tools. As DA stripped away, Maya's hands shook, rage and disbelief colliding. Hargrove hadn't just vandalized her home. He'd anticipated her counterattack, turning her evidence into a trap. The news ticker scrolled, D.A. Ellison faces criminal charges for evidence tampering. Commentators piled on, calling her desperate, unhinged, a black woman who'd overreached and now faced ruin. Aisha, watching from the couch, whispered, "Mom, what's happening?" Maya forced a smile, her voice steady for her daughter's sake, but inside she was unraveling. The footage was supposed to save her, but Hargrove had twisted it into a noose, tightening around her career, her freedom, her family. She'd thought she'd outmaneuvered him, but he'd been 3 steps ahead, his power suffocating, his hatred relentless. As she tucked Aisha into bed, the house's boarded windows, like scars, Maya vowed to keep fighting, but doubt gnawed at her. How could she face a system that protected men like Hargrove? If you're sickened by this attack on Maya's home, comment number 1 to demand justice for her family. If you think Hargrove's corruption must be exposed, hit like and subscribe to follow this fight. Can Maya claw her way back from this devastating blow, or will Hargrove's next strike shatter her for good? The betrayal. Maya Ellison sat in her boarded-up living room, the faint hum of Atlanta's evening traffic seeping through the plywood covering her shattered windows, her laptop's glow the only light in a house still reeking of spray paint and fear. The racial slurs on her walls, though scrubbed, lingered in her mind, as did the police cruisers idling in her neighbor's footage, a chilling proof of Hargrove's reach. Her office access was frozen, her career teetering under the weight of an internal affairs investigation, and her daughter Aisha slept upstairs, haunted by the vandalism that had torn their home apart. Maya's phone, now her only lifeline, buzzed with a text from Marcus Tate, her deputy prosecutor, the one man she'd trusted through every blow since her arrest outside the grocery store. "Found something big," the message read. "Meet me at the diner midnight." Maya's pulse quickened, hope flickering despite the exhaustion clawing at her. Marcus had been her rock, working the officer's case while she fought the city's wrath, and if he had a lead, it could be the key to dismantling Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's empire. She pulled on a hoodie, checked on Aisha, and drove to the diner, a rundown spot on the city's edge, its neon sign flickering like a dying star. Marcus waited in a corner booth, his eyes bloodshot, his usual confidence replaced by a nervous tick in his jaw. "What have you got?" Maya asked, sliding in across from him, her voice low. Marcus leaned forward, his words rushed. "A whistleblower. Rookie cop, name's Ethan Carter. He's got dirt on Hargrove, direct orders to falsify reports, including yours. He's willing to testify." Maya's breath caught, her mind racing. This was dynamite, a first-hand account that could tie Hargrove to her arrest, Reed's lies, Sarah's attack, and the home invasion. "Where is he?" she pressed. Marcus slid a burner phone across the table. "He's in hiding. Call him, set up a meet. But Maya, this is dangerous. Hargrove's got eyes everywhere." She nodded, gripping the phone, her resolve hardening. With Carter's testimony, she could bypass her frozen files, rebuild the officer's case, and expose Hargrove's corruption in a public way he couldn't dodge. She spent the next hour planning, her mind sharp despite the weight of the past days. A press conference, she decided, was the best move, live, unfiltered, with Carter's sworn statement broadcast to the city. She called Carter from the burner, his voice young, scared but resolute. "I saw Hargrove coach those officers to lie about you," he said. "I've got emails, recordings. I'm in." Maya set the meet for dawn, a safe house on the outskirts, and drove home, her chest tight with anticipation. For the first time since the courtroom, she felt the scales tipping, Hargrove's shadow shrinking. She worked through the night, drafting a press release contacting Carla Ruiz, the journalist who'd aired her home invasion footage, and lining up a local TV crew. By sunrise, everything was set. Carter would speak, the evidence would drop, and the city would see Hargrove for the monster he was. She met Marcus at the safe house, a crumbling apartment in a forgotten neighborhood, and waited for Carter. The clock ticked past the hour, then 2, and unease crept in. Marcus paced, checking his phone, his face pale. "He's not coming," he muttered, and Maya's stomach dropped. She called Carter's burner, but it rang unanswered, each tone a nail in her hope. Finally, a text came through, not from Carter, but from an unknown number, a photo of the rookie, his face bloodied, slumped in an alley, his eyes vacant. The message read, "You're next." Maya's knees buckled, her vision blurring as she clutched the phone. Carter had been beaten, silenced, his courage crushed by Hargrove's fists. She turned to Marcus, her voice shaking. "How did they find him?" Marcus froze, his eyes darting away, and Maya's instinct screamed. "Marcus, what did you do?" she demanded, stepping closer. He backed away, his hands raised, his voice cracking. "They got to my family, Maya. Hargrove's men, they showed up at my sister's house, said they'd kill her kids if I didn't give them Carter." Maya's heart shattered, betrayal cutting deeper than any of Hargrove's blows. Marcus, her brother-in-arms, had sold out the one witness who could have saved her. She wanted to scream, to lash out, but the pain in his eyes stopped her. He'd been broken, just as she was breaking, Hargrove's cruelty sparing no one. She turned, away, her mind reeling. The press conference now a pipe dream, her evidence gone. As she drove back to the city, her phone lit up with another blow. A leaked text chain allegedly from her, admitting she'd coerced Carter to lie about Hargrove. The messages were fake, expertly crafted, but they spread like wildfire, trending. Within minutes, news outlets pounced, their headlines brutal. D.A. Ellison fabricates whistleblower story. Disgraced prosecutor sinks lower. Maya's allies, already shaken by the investigation and Sarah's attack, began to peel away, their emails polite but distant, their support evaporating. The City Council's suspension vote, set for tomorrow, now seemed a formality, her career a casualty of Hargrove's war. She pulled into her driveway, the boarded windows a grim reminder of her vulnerability, and checked on Aisha, who slept fitfully, unaware of the latest betrayal. Maya sank onto the couch, her laptop open to the fake texts, their words a mockery. Of her fight, Marcus's confession echoed in her mind, his fear a mirror of her own, but she couldn't forgive him, not yet. Hargrove had turned her closest ally against her, isolating her in a city that once cheered her name. The press conference was dead, Carter was broken, and her reputation was in tatters, each blow harder than the last. She'd thought she could outrun Hargrove's reach, but he was everywhere, his hatred a suffocating fog. As she stared at the ceiling, the weight of her losses pressed down, her home, her team, her hope, and she wondered if she had anything left to fight with. But deep in her chest, a spark of defiance flickered. Hargrove wanted her to quit, to crumble, but she was Maya Ellison, and she'd faced worse odds before. She closed her laptop, her jaw set, and began to plan, knowing Hargrove's next strike would be even crueler, aimed at her heart, her daughter, her very soul. The setup. Maya Ellison hunched over her laptop in the dim glow of her Atlanta living room, the boarded windows blocking the dawn's light, the air thick with the lingering scent of cleaning solvent from her frantic efforts to erase the racial slurs defacing her walls. Marcus's betrayal stung like a fresh wound, his confession that he'd given up Ethan Carter, their whistleblower, to save his family replaying in her mind, each word a reminder of how alone she was. The city's hatred, fueled by Hargrove's. Fake texts claiming she'd coerced Carter had turned her allies into strangers. Her office access was frozen, and the council's suspension vote loomed like a guillotine. Aisha slept upstairs, her innocence a fragile shield against the chaos Lieutenant Victor Hargrove had unleashed. Her arrest, the viral video, Reed's lies, Sarah's attack, the home invasion, and now Marcus's fall. Maya's fingers trembled. As she opened a secure browser, her last resort after every door had slammed shut. She wasn't a hacker, but years prosecuting cybercrimes had taught her enough to dig where others wouldn't. She scoured dark web forums, chasing whispers of Hargrove's past, her desperation sharpening her focus. Hours blurred into a haze, coffee cups piling up, until she stumbled on an encrypted thread titled Atlanta Cleanse. Her pulse spiked as she cracked it open, using a stolen key from a past case. The posts were a manifesto of hate, linking Hargrove to a racist militia called the Iron Vanguard, a group plotting to purify the city's black neighborhoods. Buried in the thread were emails, Hargrove's name explicit, detailing payments to Tyler Reed, the clerk who'd lied in court, and orders for the attack on Sarah. Maya's breath hitched. This was a goldmine, proof of Hargrove's corruption, his hands on every blow against her. She downloaded the files, her heart pounding, knowing the risk if Hargrove caught her, she'd be buried. But she had no choice. The officer's case was slipping away, and this could save it. She anonymized her IP, then sent the emails to the judge presiding over Bryson Cole's hearing, attaching a note, evidence of systemic corruption. The judge, a stickler for protocol, responded within hours, ordering an emergency hearing to review the new evidence. Maya's hope surged, a fragile flame in the dark. The courtroom buzzed as she entered, her suit pressed, her bruises hidden, her eyes burning with purpose. The gallery was packed, reporters scribbling, the air electric with tension. Bryson Cole sat at the defense table, their smugness gone, replaced by nervous glances at their lawyer, Vaughn, who looked oddly calm. The judge called Maya forward, her voice sharp. "Ms. Ellison, your submission is compelling. Present your case." Maya laid out the emails, linking Hargrove to Reed's bribe and Sarah's assault, her voice steady, each word a hammer. The gallery gasped as she projected the militia thread, Hargrove's name glaring in black and white. Vaughn objected, citing chain of custody issues, but the judge overruled, her frown deepening as she read the files. Maya felt the room shift, the tide turning, and for the first time since her arrest, she believed she'd win. The judge reinstated the officer's case, scheduling a full trial, and dismissed the hearing. her gavel a thunderclap of vindication. Maya exhaled, her knees weak, the gallery's murmurs a mix of shock and admiration. She'd done it. Exposed. Hargrove saved her case and clawed back her power. Reporters swarmed as she left, their questions softer now, some even apologetic. She drove home, her chest light, imagining Aisha's smile when she heard the news. But as she pulled into her driveway, blue lights flashed and her stomach plummeted. Police cars surrounded her house, officers swarming like locusts, their radios crackling. A burly sergeant, his badge glinting, approached, his voice cold. "Maya Ellison, you're under arrest for possession and distribution of narcotics." Maya's mind reeled, her victory evaporating. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, but the sergeant shoved a warrant in her face, claiming a credible tip led to drugs found in her home. Officers emerged from her house, holding bags of white powder, their gloves gleaming under the streetlights. Maya's legs buckled. It was a setup, Hargrove's retaliation, but the bags looked real, their weight damning. "This is a lie!" she shouted, her voice breaking. But the sergeant cuffed her, the metal biting her wrists, a cruel echo of the grocery store. Neighbors watched, their curtains twitching, Aisha's terrified face appearing at the door as a social worker pulled her away, citing an unsafe environment. Maya's heart shattered, her screams drowned by the sirens as Aisha was loaded into a van, her small hands pressed against the glass. "You can't take her!" Maya yelled, thrashing, but the officers pinned her, their grips bruising. They confiscated her laptop, her phone, the militia files, everything, claiming it was evidence in the drug case. As they shoved her into a squad car, the sergeant leaned close, his breath hot. "Hargrove says hi." Maya's blood froze, the truth crashing down. Hargrove hadn't just planted drugs, he'd orchestrated a spectacle to destroy her life, her family, her fight. The car sped off, Aisha's van vanishing in the opposite direction, and Maya's world collapsed, the courtroom's triumph a cruel illusion. The news hit within minutes, headlines screaming, "D.A. Ellison arrested in drug bust. Child removed from home." The city, barely swayed by her evidence, turned feral, the protesters' chants now a victory song. Maya sat in the squad car, her cuffs tight, her mind a storm of rage and despair. She'd thought she'd beaten Hargrove, but he'd been waiting, his trap sprung with surgical precision, stripping her of her daughter, her freedom, her hope. As the precinct loomed, its lights harsh, she vowed to fight. But the weight of this blow, Hargrove's cruelest yet, threatened to crush her. If you're outraged by this vile setup, comment number 1 to stand against Hargrove's corruption. If you believe Maya's fight for Aisha deserves justice, hit like and subscribe to follow her battle. How will Maya rise from this gut-wrenching betrayal, with her daughter torn away and her evidence gone? The underground ally. Maya Ellison sat on the cold floor of an Atlanta holding cell, her wrists raw from the cuffs that had snapped shut during her second arrest, the stench of bleach and despair thick in the air. The drug bust, a vicious lie, planted by Lieutenant Victor Hargrove, had stripped her of everything. Her laptop, her evidence, her daughter Aisha, now in foster care. Her terrified face burned into Maya's memory as the social worker's van sped away. The city's venom, fueled by headlines screaming "DA caught in drug scandal," had drowned out her courtroom victory, where she'd exposed Hargrove's ties to the Iron Vanguard militia, only for him to retaliate with a setup so cruel it left her gasping. Her office was locked, her allies scattered, Marcus a traitor, Sarah comatose, Ethan beaten, and the council's suspension vote loomed, a death knell for her career. Maya's breath hitched, the cell's walls closing in, but she forced herself to focus, her mind clawing for a way out. She was a prosecutor, a fighter, and Hargrove hadn't broken her yet. A faint clatter at the cell door snapped her alert, and a woman slipped in, her frame wiry, her dreadlocks pulled tight, her eyes sharp with purpose. "Name's Lena," she whispered, her voice low, urgent. "I know who you are, Ellison. I got something you need." Maya tensed, wary of traps, but Lena's gaze held no deceit, only a fire Maya recognized. Defiance. "Talk fast," Maya said, her voice hoarse. Lena crouched, her words a rush. I was with the Vanguard undercover years back. Hargroves. Their bankroll funds their hate with dirty precinct money. I've got names, dates, accounts, enough to bury him. Maya's pulse surged, hope flickering despite the weight of her losses. Lena slid a crumpled note through the bars, a list of encrypted file locations and a burner phone number. Get this to someone you trust, Lena said. But move quick, Hargrove's got snitches in here. Maya memorized the note, then tore it to shreds, her mind racing. This was a lifeline, a chance to revive the militia evidence Hargrove had confiscated. She hid the fragments in her shoe, her resolve hardening. Lena vanished as a guard approached, and Maya lay back, feigning sleep, her heart pounding. Hours later, a board officer processed her release on bail, her lawyer's strings barely holding. Maya stepped into the dawn, the city's hum a cruel contrast to her shattered life, and dialed Carla Ruiz, the journalist who'd aired her home invasion footage. Carla answered, her voice tense but eager. Maya, you okay? Maya skipped pleasantries, relaying Lena's intel, and sent the file locations. Run it tonight, she urged. Show the world what Hargrove is. Carla promised a bombshell segment, and Maya hung up, her chest tight with anticipation. She took a cab to her mother's house where Aisha waited, her eyes red from crying. Maya hugged her fiercely, whispering apologies, promising to bring her home. Aisha clung to her, and for a moment Maya felt whole, her daughter's warmth, a shield against the storm. She tucked Aisha in, then turned on the TV, Carla's broadcast starting. The screen flashed with Lena's files, bank records, emails, audio of Hargrove ordering Vanguard attacks on black communities. Carla's voiceover was grim. Lieutenant Hargrove's ties to a racist militia raised questions about Atlanta's police. Social media exploded. Hashtags like Hargrove exposed trending, some calling for his badge, others dismissing it as a desperate Ellison ploy. Maya's hope soared. The city was listening. The council might hesitate, and Aisha's return felt closer. She leaned back, exhaustion tugging, believing she'd finally struck Hargrove where it hurt. But as the segment ended, her phone buzzed with a news alert, and her blood ran cold. A hit-and-run had left Lena in a coma, her car crumpled on a quiet street. The driver vanished. The report hinted at gang retaliation, but Maya knew better. Hargrove's hand, swift and brutal, silencing her ally. Minutes later, another alert. Carla Ruiz had been fired, her network citing unverified sources, her segment pulled from reruns. Maya's stomach twisted, her victory unraveling. She checked the files online, finding them flagged as inadmissible by the judge, who claimed they lacked authentication, a legal gut punch orchestrated by Hargrove's allies. The TV flickered with a new story. Ellison's evidence debunked, commentators piling on, calling her a liar, a black woman who'd fabricated a conspiracy to save her skin. Maya's hands shook, rage and despair colliding. Lena's sacrifice, Carla's courage. It was all for nothing, Hargrove's reach crushing every spark of resistance. Aisha stirred, murmuring in her sleep, and Maya's heart broke anew. She'd thought she'd turned the tide, but Hargrove had anticipated her, striking her allies with surgical precision, leaving her more isolated than ever. The cell's chill lingered in her bones, but it was nothing compared to the ice of this betrayal, Hargrove's cruelty stripping her bare. She stood, pacing, her mind a storm. Lena's files were gone, her daughter was in limbo, and the city's faith in her was dust. She vowed to keep fighting, but as the night deepened, Hargrove's shadow loomed larger, his next blow already forming, deadlier than anything she'd faced. The militia threat. Maya Ellison crouched in the shadows of her mother's cramped Atlanta apartment, the hum of a distant fan barely masking the thud of her heart, her laptop's screen casting a harsh glow on her face. The city's betrayal weighed heavy. Lena comatose, Carla fired, her militia evidence dismissed as fake, all while Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's grip tightened, his latest blow leaving her allies broken and Aisha in foster care, her absence a wound that bled with every breath. The drug bust, the home invasion, Marcus's betrayal and the viral lies had stripped Maya bare. Her career on the brink, the council's suspension vote a ticking bomb. But Lena's crumpled note, now a lifeline, burned in her memory. Its encrypted file locations a faint hope against Hargrove's empire. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard, her prosecutor's mind sharpened by desperation. As she scoured the dark web for traces of the Iron Vanguard, the racist militia Hargrove funded, she found their private forum, a cesspool of hate planning, a rally to cleanse Atlanta's black neighborhoods, its date set for next week, its rhetoric chillingly precise. Maya's stomach churned, the posts detailing firebombs, blockades, and examples to be made of community leaders, her name among them. Hargrove's emails, embedded in the thread, confirmed his role, funneling precinct funds to arm the vanguard, his orders explicit. Ellison's interference ends now. Maya's breath hitched, fury mingling with fear. This wasn't just corruption, it was war, a calculated assault on her people, her city, her daughter's future. She created a burner account, posing as a vanguard sympathizer, her posts dripping, with their coded hate to blend in. Hours bled into dawn as she chatted, probing until a member leaked a file, a detailed rally plan, complete with maps and weapon caches. Maya's pulse raced. This was evidence no judge could dismiss, proof of Hargrove's terrorism. She recorded the forum's chatter, her hands trembling, knowing the risk. If Hargrove traced her, she'd be dead. But Aisha's face, tear-streaked in the foster van, drove her forward. She anonymized her IP, then sent the audio and plans. To the FBI's Atlanta field office, attaching a note, "Imminent threat to public safety." The response came fast, an agent confirming an investigation, promising swift action. Maya exhaled, her chest tight with fragile hope. If the FBI moved, Hargrove's rally would collapse, his militia exposed, and Aisha's return might be within reach. She closed her laptop, exhaustion tugging, and slipped out to visit Aisha, her mother's apartment a temporary refuge. The foster home's sterile halls smelled of antiseptic, and Aisha's hug was fierce, her voice small. "When can I come?" "Home, Mum." Maya kissed her forehead, promising soon, her heart breaking as she left, the social worker's gaze cold. Back at the apartment, she checked her phone. Finding news of the FBI raid on a Vanguard stash, the rally postponed. Social media buzzed, some praising the bust, others calling it a government overreach. But Maya felt a spark of triumph. She'd stopped Hargrove's plan, turned his weapon against him, and for the first time since the drug bust she believed she could win. She sank onto the couch, imagining Aisha's smile when they reunited, the council's vote faltering under public pressure. But as she drifted towards sleep, her phone vibrated, a blocked number flashing. She answered, her voice cautious, and a distorted voice rasped, "Check your front door." Maya's blood froze. She crept to the door, finding a grainy photo taped to it. Aisha, bound and gagged, her eyes wide with terror in a dark room. A note scrawled beneath read, "Retract the FBI leak, or she dies." Maya's knees buckled, a scream trapped in her throat. She called Aisha's foster home, her voice shaking, and the worker confirmed Aisha was gone, vanished from her bed. Maya's world collapsed. The FBI's raid a hollow victory. Hargrove's retaliation a blade to her heart. He hadn't just kidnapped her daughter, he'd forced her into an impossible choice. Save Aisha or expose the truth. Her phone buzzed. Again the distorted voice back. "Go live, Ellison. Say the leak was a lie or she's dead by dawn." Maya's hands shook, rage and despair colliding. She stumbled to her laptop, opening a social media app, her face pale under the camera's glare. The live stream started, thousands joining instantly, their comments a blur of hate and pity. "I fabricated the Vanguard evidence," she choked out, each word ash in her mouth. "The FBI leak was a mistake." The stream ended, the comments exploding. "Liar, disgrace, she's finished." Maya's chest heaved, tears streaming as she stared at the photo of Aisha, her daughter's fear searing her soul. Hargrove had won, forcing her to sabotage her own fight, strengthening his grip on the city. The FBI's investigation stalled, the rally rescheduled, and the council's vote now seemed certain to bury her. She sank to the floor, the apartment's silence deafening. Aisha's absence a void that swallowed her hope. Hargrove's cruelty was surgical, his power absolute, and Maya's defiance flickered, nearly extinguished. She clutched the photo, vowing to save her daughter, but the cost of this defeat, her credibility, her fight, her city, threatened to crush her. As the night deepened, Hargrove's shadow loomed, his next strike already forming, deadlier than ever. If you're heartbroken for Aisha's kidnapping, comment number 1 to demand her safe return. If you're enraged by Hargrove's ruthless tactics, hit like and subscribe to follow Maya's fight. Can Maya rescue her daughter and reclaim her battle, or will Hargrove's grip tighten until she breaks? The rescue mission. Maya Ellison gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white as she sped through Atlanta's outskirts, the night swallowing the city's glow behind her. Aisha's terrified face from the kidnapping video haunted her. The masked figure's knife at her daughter's throat a blade in Maya's heart. Hargrove's ultimatum, retract her FBI leak or lose Aisha, had forced her to publicly disavow the Iron Vanguard evidence. Her words at the press conference a bitter poison that shredded her credibility and halted the FBI's probe. Her arrest, the viral video, Reed's lies, Sarah's attack, her vandalized home, Marcus's betrayal, Ethan's beating, Lena's coma, Carla's firing. Each blow had been a step toward this moment. Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's cruelest strike yet, stealing her 13-year-old daughter to break her. But Maya was done bending. The text confirming Aisha's drop-off location had included a GPS coordinate, a rural Vanguard safe house 30 miles north, and Maya had a lead. A tracker chip in Aisha's bracelet, a precaution from a past case, its signal faint but alive. She'd called a rogue cop, Jamal Reed, a disgraced officer who'd clashed with Hargrove years ago and owed her a favor. Jamal met her at a gas station, his pickup truck idling, a shotgun slung across his back. "You sure about this?" He asked, his eyes scanning the dark. Maya nodded, her voice steel. "It's my daughter." They drove in silence, the tracker's signal guiding them to a wooded compound, its barbed wire fence glinting under the moon. Maya's heart pounded as they parked a mile away, creeping through the pines, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. The safe house was a squat concrete bunker, guarded by 2 Vanguard thugs, their rifles slung low. Maya's breath hitched, but Jamal signaled a plan: distract and strike. He tossed a rock, drawing one guard away, and Maya slipped behind the other, her years of self-defense training kicking in. She disarmed him with a swift twist, his rifle clattering, and knocked him out with a precise strike to the temple. Jamal subdued the second guard, and they breached the bunker, its corridors dim and reeking of gun oil. The tracker led them to a locked room, and Maya's hands trembled as she picked the lock, her mind screaming Aisha's name. The door swung open, and there she was, blindfolded, bound, but alive, her small frame curled on a cot. "Mom?" Aisha whispered, and Maya tore off the blindfold, hugging her fiercely, tears streaming. "I'm here, baby," she choked out, cutting the ropes. But footsteps echoed, and Jamal hissed, "We've got company." 3 Vanguard members burst in, their guns raised, and Maya's heart lurched. She shoved Aisha behind her, grabbing a fallen guard's pistol, her hands steady despite the fear. Jamal fired first, dropping one thug, and Maya shot another, her aim true, the third fleeing into the night. They ran, Aisha clinging to her, the compound's alarms blaring. Bullets whizzed past as they sprinted to Jamal's truck, Maya shielding Aisha with her body. They peeled out, tires screeching, the Vanguard's shouts fading as the woods swallowed them. Maya held Aisha close, her daughter's sobs breaking her heart. But they were alive, together, and for a moment, that was enough. At dawn, Maya took Aisha to her mother's apartment, calling a trusted social worker to expedite her return from foster care. She contacted Carla Ruiz, the fired journalist, who agreed to break the kidnapping story. By noon, Carla's freelance blog post went viral, detailing Aisha's abduction and Maya's rescue, backed by Jamal's sworn statement. Atlanta's airwaves hummed with outrage, some calling Maya a hero, others skeptical, but shaken. Social. Media shifted, hashtags like Justice for Aisha trending, and the city council paused its suspension vote, swayed by the public's sympathy. Maya sat with Aisha, her daughter's hand in hers, watching the news, her chest swelling with fragile hope. The FBI, pressured by the story, hinted at reopening the Vanguard case, and Maya believed she'd finally turned the tide, her daughter safe, her fight alive. She tucked Aisha into bed, promising a new start, and allowed herself a moment to breathe, the weight of weeks lifting. But as she checked her phone, a new alert shattered her peace. A video, uploaded anonymously, was trending worldwide, its title chilling: D.A. Ellison confesses to fraud. Maya clicked, her stomach plummeting. The footage showed her, her face, her voice, sitting in her office, admitting she'd fabricated every piece of evidence against Hargrove, from the militia files to Reed's testimony. "I wanted power," the fake Maya said, her eyes cold. "I used my race to play the victim." The video was flawless, her mannerisms perfect, but it was a deep fake, a technological lie so convincing it fooled even her mother, who gasped from the couch. Maya's hands shook, rage and despair colliding. Within hours, the video drowned out Aisha's story, headlines screaming, "Ellison exposed as liar. Deepfake confirms DA's deceptions." The FBI halted its investigation, citing tainted evidence, and the council rescheduled the suspension vote. Now a formality. Protesters returned, their chants louder, their signs branding Maya a fraud. Aisha, waking to the noise, whispered, "Mom, is it true?" Maya's heart broke, her voice steady for her daughter's sake. "It's a lie, baby. I'll fix it." But inside she was unraveling. Hargrove hadn't just kidnapped Aisha, he'd weaponized technology, turning her own image against her, his cruelty boundless. The rescue's triumph was ashes, her public sympathy a fleeting mirage. She stood pacing, her mind a storm. The deepfake was a masterstroke, erasing her truth, isolating her further. Her allies, already scarce, vanished, their emails silent, and the city's faith in her was dust. As she watched Aisha sleep, the weight of this blow, Hargrove's most vicious yet, threatened to crush her. She vowed to fight, but with her credibility gone and disbarment looming, she wondered if she had anything left to wield against a man who'd turned her own face into a weapon. The breaking point. Maya Ellison crouched in a dingy Atlanta motel room, the air thick with mildew, her burner phone's dim glow casting shadows across her face. The deepfake video, a chilling forgery of her confessing to fabricating evidence, had obliterated her credibility, turning her rescue of Aisha into a footnote and halting the FBI's probe into Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's Iron Vanguard ties. Her arrest at the grocery store, the viral smear, Reed's lies, Sarah's attack, her vandalized home, Marcus's betrayal, Ethan's beating, Lena's coma, Carla's firing, Aisha's kidnapping. Each blow had stripped her bare, leaving her disbarment imminent, her daughter back home but haunted, her city a battlefield where Hargrove's lies reigned. The council's suspension vote loomed, a formality now, and protesters' chants echoed outside her mother's apartment, branding her a fraud. Maya was a ghost in her own life, but she refused to surrender. With her office locked and her allies gone, she turned to a hacker collective, a shadowy group she'd prosecuted years ago, but spared for their ethics. She contacted them through encrypted channels, her message desperate. "Need dirt on Victor." Hargrove deep dive no limits. The collective, calling themselves Nightshade, responded within hours, intrigued by her fight. "Give us 48 hours, their leader, a voice masked by distortion, promised. Maya waited, hiding in the motel, her heart tethered to Aisha, safe with her grandmother but shaken by the deepfake's lies. She paced, the room's peeling wallpaper a mirror of her fraying hope, replaying every loss, every moment Hargrove had outmaneuvered her. Nightshade delivered on the second night, sending an encrypted drive to a dead-drop location. Maya retrieved it, her hands trembling as she plugged it into a clean laptop. The files were a goldmine, a decade of Hargrove's corruption, racial profiling logs, falsified arrests, payoffs to judges, and Vanguard funding disguised as community grants. One folder detailed her case, orders to frame her with drugs, coach Reed, and produce the deepfake, all signed with Hargrove's digital key. Maya's breath caught, her rage igniting. This was the key to bury him, to reclaim her truth. She planned her move, knowing a courtroom was too slow, too rigged. The city council's next meeting, broadcast live, was her stage. She contacted a sympathetic tech, a former intern, to hack the council's feed, and spent hours condensing Nightshade's data into a 10-minute video, her voiceover calm but searing, naming Hargrove as Atlanta's cancer. The meeting night arrived, and Maya slipped into the council chamber's balcony, her hoodie hiding her face, her laptop ready. As Councilman Gaines, Hargrove's ally, droned about restoring trust, her tech hijacked the feed, and Maya's video blasted across screens citywide. The gallery gasped as Hargrove's files flashed, arrest logs targeting black men, emails ordering her drug bust, the deepfake source code. Maya's voice echoed, "This is the truth they buried." Protesters outside fell silent, their phones streaming the broadcast, and social media erupted, hashtags like Hargrove corrupt trending. Reporters scrambled, their cameras turning from Gaines to the screens, and for the first time, Maya saw fear in the council's eyes. She'd done it, exposed Hargrove to millions, her evidence undeniable, her fight alive. The chamber buzzed, some cheering, others shouting, and Maya slipped out, her heart pounding with triumph. She reached her motel, Aisha's face in her mind, believing she'd shifted the tide, that the city would rally, the FBI would act, and Hargrove would fall. But as she unlocked the door, her phone lit up with a news alert and her blood ran cold. The council, led by Gaines, had declared her evidence inadmissible, citing illegal hacking by a disgraced DA. The broadcast was pulled, the files flagged as tainted, and commentators piled on, calling her a criminal who'd stooped to cyber-terrorism. Maya's knees buckled, her victory ashes. She checked social media, finding a new wave of hate, her video drowned by memes mocking her desperation. Then a text from an unknown number. "Check the street." She peered through the motel's grimy window and her heart stopped. A mob, dozens strong, gathered outside, their faces twisted with rage, holding torches and signs reading "Ellison's Lies." They chanted "Traitor," their voices a roar, and Maya recognized Vanguard tattoos on some, Hargrove's foot soldiers mixed with misled citizens. A brick crashed through the window, glass shattering, and Maya grabbed her laptop, her pulse racing. She called her mother, whispering, "Keep Aisha safe," and fled through a back exit, the mob's shouts closing in. Sirens wailed, but she didn't trust the police, not with Hargrove's grip. She ran, her breath ragged, the city's streets a maze, the mob's torches flickering behind her. Aisha's safety was her only anchor, but the safe house was miles away and Hargrove's allies were everywhere. The broadcast's triumph was a trap, Hargrove's retaliation swifter, crueler than she'd imagined. He'd turned her evidence into a spark, igniting a mob to hunt her like prey. Maya ducked into an alley, her chest heaving, the weight of this blow crushing her. She'd thought she'd won, but Hargrove had twisted her truth into chaos, his power suffocating. As she hid, the mob's chants echoed, and she vowed to survive, for Aisha, for justice. But Hargrove's next strike loomed, deadlier than ever, and she was running out of places to hide. Part 12. The Final Stand. Maya Ellison sprinted through Atlanta's rain-slicked alleys, her breath ragged, the mob's torches and chants fading, but their threat a pulse in her veins. The city council broadcast her desperate bid to expose Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's decade of corruption had backfired, her hacked evidence dismissed as illegal, igniting a Vanguard-led mob to hunt her like an animal. Her arrest at the grocery store, the viral smear, Reed's lies, Sarah's attack, her vandalized home, Marcus's betrayal, Ethan's beating, Lena's coma, Carla's firing, Aisha's kidnapping, the deepfake. Each blow had pushed her to this edge, her career in ruins, her daughter safe with her grandmother but traumatized, her city a battlefield where Hargrove's lies reigned. Disbarment loomed, her allies were gone, and the motel safe house was compromised, but Maya's defiance burned brighter than her fear. She needed to end this, to face Hargrove head-on, and she had one card left to play. Using a burner phone, she contacted Nightshade, the hacker collective, begging for a trace on Hargrove's location. They delivered in hours, pinpointing him at an abandoned warehouse on the city's industrial fringe, a vanguard stronghold. Maya devised a plan, reckless, but precise. Lure him out, provoke a confession, and live-stream it to the world, bypassing the system he'd rigged. She rigged a hidden camera in her jacket, linked to Nightshade's secure stream, and sent Hargrove a taunting message through a Vanguard forum. "I know your secrets, VH, meet me, or they go public." Her heart pounded as she drove to the warehouse, its rusted skeleton looming under a storm-heavy sky, the air thick with oil and decay. She parked a block away, checking the camera's feed, her hands steady despite the dread gnawing her gut. Aisha's face, safe but scared, fueled her resolve. This was for her, for every life Hargrove had crushed. She slipped inside, the warehouse's vast interior echoing with drips, her footsteps muffled by dust. Hargrove arrived alone, his silhouette broad, his police uniform crisp, his eyes glinting with a predator's calm. "You're persistent, Ellison," he sneered, his voice low, amused. "But you're out of moves." Maya stood her ground, her camera rolling, her voice sharp. "I've got your files, your orders to frame me, to kidnap my daughter. The world's watching, Victor. Confess or I release everything." Hargrove laughed, stepping closer, his bulk towering. "You think a live stream scares me? I own this city." But Maya pressed, her words a scalpel, recounting his crimes. The grocery store setup, Reed's bribe, Sarah's assault, Aisha's abduction, the deep fake. She baited him, calling him a coward hiding behind his badge, and his composure cracked, his face twisting with rage. "You want the truth?" he roared, his voice echoing off the walls. "I built this system. I framed you, paid Reed, took your kid, because people like you don't belong here. Atlanta's mine, and I'll burn it before I let you win." Maya's heart soared, his confession clear, the live stream spiking with millions of viewers, Nightshade's feed unbreakable. Social media erupted, hashtags like Hargrove confessed trending, protests igniting outside precincts. But Hargrove's eyes narrowed, catching the camera's glint, and he lunged, pulling a gun, its barrel cold against her temple. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "This ends now." Maya's training kicked in, her body moving before, her mind twisting his wrist, the gun clattering. They grappled, her nails raking his face, his fists bruising her ribs, the fight brutal, raw. She kicked his knee, dropping him, and scrambled for the gun, her hands shaking but steady. She aimed it at him, her voice a growl. "It's over, Hargrove." He smirked, blood dripping, unfazed. "You'll never win." Sirens wailed, closing in, and Maya's hope flickered. Backup, maybe the FBI, alerted by the stream. But as she stepped back, headlights flooded the warehouse and a dozen police officers stormed in, their guns drawn, their badges gleaming. Her stomach dropped as she recognized their leader, Sergeant Malone, a Hargrove loyalist from her drug bust. "Drop the weapon, Ellison," Malone barked, his eyes cold. Maya froze, the gun heavy, Hargrove's smirk widening. This wasn't rescue, it was an ambush. Hargrove's allies in the force moving to silence her, their loyalty to him deeper. The shocking reversal. Maya Ellison stumbled through Atlanta's rain-soaked industrial district, her ribs screaming with every step, blood trickling from a gash on her forearm where Sergeant Malone's cuffs had torn her skin. The warehouse ambush, orchestrated by Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's loyalists, had nearly ended her. Their guns drawn to silence the live-streamed confession she'd forced from him, his admission of framing her, kidnapping Aisha, and fueling the Iron Vanguard's hate. Her grocery store arrest, the viral smear, Reed's lies, Sarah's attack, her vandalized home, Marcus's betrayal, Ethan's beating, Lena's coma, Carla's firing, Aisha's abduction, the deepfake, the mob. Each blow had led to this, her body battered, her career in ashes, her daughter safe but scarred. Yet the livestream, broadcast by Nightshade's unbreakable feed, had sparked citywide protests, millions watching as Hargrove's empire cracked. Now, surrounded by his corrupt officers, Maya's defiance burned, her hidden camera still rolling, capturing their betrayal. Malone shoved her toward a squad car, his smirk mirroring Hargrove's, but Maya's instincts, honed by years of survival, kicked in. She twisted, slamming her elbow into his jaw, the crack echoing as he staggered. The other officers lunged, but she dove behind a rusted crate, her heart pounding, the rain masking her movements. Gunshots rang out, bullets pinging off metal, and Maya crawled through the warehouse's shadows, her breath shallow, pain lancing her side. She spotted a fire exit, its lock rusted, and kicked it open, slipping into the storm, the officers' shouts fading. Her camera, miraculously intact, uploaded its final frames to Nightshade's server, the world seeing Malone's treachery. Maya ran, the city's edges blurring, her mind fixed on Aisha, safe with her grandmother, and the need to survive. She found a payphone, its booth a relic, and called Agent Laura Chen, the FBI contact who'd probed the Vanguard. "It's me," Maya gasped, her voice raw. "Hargrove's men ambushed me. The stream's live. Move now." Chen's tone was grim but urgent. "We're on it. Stay hidden." Maya hung up, her body trembling, and hid in a derelict lot, the rain washing blood from her wounds. Hours passed, her mind a storm of fear and resolve, until her burner phone buzzed with a news alert. The FBI, spurred by the livestream's viral reach, 20 million views and counting, had raided Hargrove's precinct, arresting him, Malone, and a dozen officers. Federal charges piled up: racketeering, hate crimes, evidence tampering, kidnapping. Protests swelled, Atlanta's streets alive with chants of justice for Ellison, the city council cancelling its suspension vote, shaken by the truth. Maya exhaled, relief mingling with exhaustion, but the victory felt hollow. She returned to her mother's apartment, Aisha rushing into her arms, her small frame trembling. "You're okay," Aisha whispered, and Maya held her, tears falling, the weight of her fight crashing down. Days later, she faced the Bar Association, their verdict swift: disbarment for unethical conduct, citing her hacked broadcast and dark web dealings. The gavel fell, her career, her identity as a prosecutor, gone, a bitter cost for exposing Hargrove. Maya stood tall, her chin high, but inside she mourned, the system punishing her for its own rot. She moved forward, renting a small office, in a black neighborhood, opening a community law clinic to help those crushed by the system, her passion undimmed. Aisha, slowly healing, helped paint the walls, her smile a fragile light. Maya's nights were spent rebuilding, counseling clients. Her fight now grassroots, her name whispered with respect in the community she'd saved. But 3 weeks later, as she sorted mail, a plain envelope stopped her cold. No return address, no stamp, just her name in stark ink. She opened it, her hands steady, and found a single page, typed, unsigned. Hargrove was a pawn, it read. "The real power sits higher. They protected him and they're watching you. Keep fighting, but beware." A chill ran through her, the words a spark to her instincts. She scanned the letter, finding a coded signature, a hint of a federal official, someone above Hargrove's pay grade, pulling strings she'd never seen. Her heart raced, rage and purpose reigniting. The system's rot ran deeper, a shadow conspiracy. Shielding men like Hargrove, and Maya was still a target. She tucked the letter away, her jaw set, a smile curling her lips, not of joy but of resolve. She'd lost her badge, her reputation, but not her fight. Hargrove was caged, his network crumbling, but this new threat loomed, a battle she'd face on her terms. She stepped outside, Atlanta's skyline sharp against the dusk, and vowed to keep going, for Aisha, for justice, her spirit unbroken, the war far from over. The shocking reversal. Maya Ellison stumbled through Atlanta's rain-soaked industrial district, her ribs screaming with every step, blood trickling from a gash on her forearm where Sergeant Malone's cuffs had torn her skin. The warehouse ambush, orchestrated by Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's loyalists, had nearly ended her. their guns drawn to silence the live-streamed confession she'd forced from him. His admission of framing her, kidnapping Aisha, and fueling the Iron Vanguard's hate. Her grocery store arrest, the viral smear, Reed's lies, Sarah's attack, her vandalized home, Marcus's betrayal, Ethan's beating, Lena's coma, Carla's firing, Aisha's abduction, the deepfake, the mob. Each blow had led to this. Her body battered, her career in ashes, her daughter safe but scarred. Yet the livestream, broadcast by Nightshade's unbreakable feed, had sparked citywide protests, millions watching as Hargrove's empire cracked. Now, surrounded by his corrupt officers, Maya's defiance burned, her hidden camera still rolling, capturing their betrayal. Malone shoved her toward a squad car, his smirk mirroring Hargrove's, but Maya's instincts, honed by years of survival, kicked in. She twisted, slamming her elbow into his jaw, the crack echoing as he staggered. The other officers lunged, but she dove behind a rusted crate, her heart pounding, the rain masking her movements. Gunshots rang out, bullets pinging off metal, and Maya crawled through the warehouse's shadows, her breath shallow, pain lancing her side. She spotted a fire exit. Its lock rusted and kicked it open, slipping into the storm, the officers' shouts fading. Her camera, miraculously intact, uploaded its final frames to Nightshade's server, the world seeing Malone's treachery. Maya ran, the city's edges blurring, her mind fixed on Aisha, safe with her grandmother and the need to survive. She found a payphone, its booth a relic, and called Agent Laura Chen, the FBI contact who'd probed the Vanguard. "It's me." Maya gasped, her voice raw. "Hargrove's men ambushed me. The stream's live. Move now." Chen's tone was grim but urgent. "We're on it. Stay hidden." Maya hung up, her body trembling, and hid in a derelict lot, the rain washing blood from her wounds. Hours passed, her mind a storm of fear and resolve, until her burner phone buzzed with a news alert. The FBI, spurred by the livestream's viral reach, 20 million views and counting, had raided Hargrove's precinct, arresting him, Malone, and a dozen officers. Federal charges piled up: racketeering, hate crimes, evidence tampering, kidnapping. Protests swelled, Atlanta's streets alive with chants of justice for Ellison, the city council cancelling its suspension vote, shaken by the truth. Maya exhaled, relief mingling with exhaustion, but the victory felt hollow. She returned to her mother's apartment, Aisha rushing into her arms, her small frame trembling. "You're okay," Aisha whispered, and Maya held her, tears falling, the weight of her fight crashing down. Days later, she faced the Bar Association, their verdict swift: disbarment for unethical conduct, citing her hacked broadcast and dark web dealings. The gavel fell, her career, her identity as a prosecutor, gone. A bitter cost for exposing Hargrove. Maya stood tall, her chin high, but inside she mourned, the system punishing her for its own rot. She moved forward, renting a small office, in a black neighborhood, opening a community law clinic to help those crushed by the system, her passion undimmed. Aisha, slowly healing, helped paint the walls, her smile a fragile light. Maya's nights were spent rebuilding, counseling clients, her fight now grassroots, her name whispered with respect in the community she'd saved. But 3 weeks later, as she sorted mail, a plain envelope stopped her cold. No return address, no stamp, just her name in stark ink. She opened it, her hands steady, and found a single page, typed, unsigned. "Hargrove was a pawn," it read. "The real power sits higher. They protected him and they're watching you. Keep fighting, but beware." A chill ran through her, the words a spark to her instincts. She scanned the letter, finding a coded signature, a hint of a federal official, someone above Hargrove's pay grade, pulling strings she'd never seen. Her heart raced, rage and purpose reigniting. The system's rot ran deeper, a shadow conspiracy, shielding men like Hargrove, and Maya was still a target. She tucked the letter away, her jaw set, a smile curling her lips. Not of joy, but of resolve. She'd lost her badge, her reputation, but not her fight. Hargrove was caged, his network crumbling, But this new threat loomed, a battle she'd face on her terms. She stepped outside, Atlanta's skyline sharp against the dusk, and vowed to keep going, for Aisha, for justice, her spirit unbroken, the war far from over. Maya Ellison's journey in A Black Woman's Justice is a searing testament to resilience against systemic racism. Her story teaches us that courage in the face of injustice, though costly, can ignite change. Maya, a black district attorney, endures relentless racist attacks, false arrests, smear campaigns, home invasions, and her daughter's kidnapping, yet never wavers. Her fight against Lieutenant Victor Hargrove's corrupt racist network reveals a critical lesson. Systemic racism thrives on silence, and exposing it, even at great personal sacrifice, is a moral imperative. Maya's disbarment for unethical tactics underscores the system's hypocrisy, punishing those who challenge its rot while protecting racist perpetrators. Yet her choice to open a community law clinic shows that justice can persist outside broken institutions, rooted in grassroots action. The cryptic letter hinting at a higher conspiracy teaches us vigilance. Racism's roots run deep, and defeating one villain doesn't end the war. Maya's unbroken spirit, smiling defiantly at new threats, reminds us that hope and resistance are inseparable, even when the cost is everything. This story challenges us to confront racism in our own communities, to amplify marginalized voices, and to fight on no matter the odds. What will you do to challenge systemic racism in your world? Comment number 1 if you're inspired to act, like, subscribe, and share to spread Maya's fight. Thank you for joining this journey. May you carry justice forward with courage and hope.